Our charming Monday morning viewers, and welcome to the now streaming morning live show brought to you from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria. The past week has brought immense sorrow to our nation, with families grieving and communities railing. The scale of devastation too difficult to comprehend, with a ravaging flood across Niger State, a tragedy that has claimed the lives of over 117 people and 3,000 buildings submerged. And as if that were not enough, we also mourn the tragic loss of 21 young athletes from Kano State. It is truly a moment that calls for our deepest empathy and our unwavering support, and a commitment to understanding how we can best respond and rebuild. We will be discussing these developing stories alongside other national trending stories for today. I am your Uncle Gordon Ujiri, and with me in the studio to co-anchor the show with me is...
Somto Chikulo Kizu and Mr. Gordon. It's really nice to be back on the show and on the screen of our viewers. Thank you for having me.
All right, Somto, welcome to non-streaming once more, and indeed, it's a pleasure having you back after, do I say 3 weeks break?
Let's call it a year.
I also have another co-anchor.
Good morning, viewers. I am Bulu Atife Adeboye, and it's nice to be on the show once again this morning.
All right, Bulu, welcome to non-streaming.
Thank you.
Same with you, 3 weeks down the line.
It seems like it's been an eternity. Never wished for it to end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I say you miss the ambience of the show and everything that has to do with it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right, viewers, remember you can be part of the show by calling in the number on your screen and sending in your comments via our various social media platform. But first, we will take a look at some select newspaper headline that came in this morning. And to kickstart that process of the newspaper review, I would believe in my two co-anchors to pilots, that starting with Mr. Sumtu. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Godwin. Beginning from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. The major story we have there, it says FG, the federal government gas-powered vehicle scheme runs into major hinge worldwide. And we have a figure of 785.6 billion naira investment threatened. This we can find on page 19 on the Vanguard newspaper. And also we have 50 killed, 15 parishes shot by armed heathers in Makurdi diocese. This is coming from a Catholic priest. And we can find that on page 13 on the Vanguard newspaper. Also, we have something concerning politics. Amici gave Tinubu his dose of his own medicine. This is coming from Shoyinka, and we can find that on page 9 on the Vanguard. Nigeria, 6 others affected as Saudi Arabia suspends block work visa. We can find that on page 8. And also something concerning the debt, and this is coming from the presidency. It says no sin in borrowing. Yeah, we acknowledge the fact that yes, there's no sin in borrowing, but what exactly is being done with what is being borrowed, and how can we curtail the rate at which the nation borrows? So no sin in borrowing. Yes, we agree with you, but what comes afterwards, it becomes a sin. And also we have Dangote refinery symbolizes hope for Africa. This is coming from the ECOWAS leaders. Yeah, we know it's the hope for Africa, but we can't see that here in Nigeria. But the ECOWAS are saying it on our behalf. Also, we have Tinubu should not Play God. This is coming from Sule Lamido. We can find that on page 14. And this also, it's quite it's surprising. Thugs hired by parents assault vice principal for preventing cheating in Ondo. This we can find on page 6. And lastly, on the Vanguard, we have FG Others Employee Compensation Scheme for Civil Servants. That we can find on page 9. And that's all we have for you this morning on the Vanguard newspaper. Thank you, Godwin.
All right, coming to you now, Bolu.
All right, we go with the Guardian newspaper this morning. And below the masthead, we have Saudi Arabia evict 205,000 unauthorized pilgrims from Mecca. You can find that story on page 2. We have beside that, Forum appeals for relocation of Giwa barracks as IEDs killed 9 in Borno State. That's on page 3. Also, we have Ariwa griefs over Niger flood disaster and Kano accident, page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. And the major headline story on the Guardian newspaper this morning says 2027 opposition coalition shops for candidates as APC mocks effort. You can read about that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And also we have below the masthead economy not in crisis, says presidency as Afenifere rates Tinubu low. And below that, the bottom strip, we have ECOWAS at 50, a legacy at a crossroad. We can find that on page 12, and that's all we can take on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, thank you so much. My two co-anchors in person of Sumto Chuku and also Bolu Atife, thank you so much. We would be going straight into the Punch newspaper, and the Punch is leading with a whole lot of trending headline there, but I'll take just a few. And starting with the story on page 7, we have terrorists eyeing Nigeria, West African coastline. This is coming from the US. And then we also have Grim Toll as the lead story there. State move to evacuate flood zone. And we have the rider there that says Niger buries 153. States brace for heavy rain. Citizens plead for action. Mokwa survivors fear disease outbreak. And then we have this on page 34 that says Nigerians petrol price 55% below West African average. This is coming from the African richest man there, Dangote Alinko. And then we have on the Natasha Apoti case. It says defamation, Natasha to appear in court on Tuesday, and this can be seen on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And then coming from Cardoso there, it says 7 banks reserves with CBN surge to 18.8 trillion naira, and can be seen on pages 33. And then we have NDLEA intercept Saudi-bound pilgrims with drugs. This can be seen on pages 5. And then we also have on pages 9 withheld allocation Oshun taps project fund to pay local government work. And then you have a picture story there, and also by the sideline of it, I think statistics given by the Nigerian Customs Service on trade and economic policies as regards to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Day. So viewers, we want to encourage you to get a copy of this paper and follow through with all of the trending stories that we are having this morning. Very quickly, we would be diving into the discussion this morning. Just as we have read in most of the paper, we have not so happy story to start with this morning, and that is as regards to the flood crisis in Niger State and the submerging of over 3,000 buildings submerged in water. This has taken a toll on the community, especially Makwa in Niger State. So we would be looking at some of these things and all other topics that we would be giving out. So viewers, want to encourage you to be part of this show by calling in the number showing on your screen, and also by sending your comments via our various social media platform. We would be here to take those comments as the show proceed. All right, gentlemen, coming to you right now in the studio. Bolo, I would be starting with you because flood is not the first time we are having an occurrence of it. Few years down the line, we know how devastating the flood situation in Nigeria is and has been since the collapse of the Laudo Dam and Cameroon releasing water. It seems as though we have not gotten a hand of the situation. Several warnings, you may say, from NIMET and all other regulatory, otherwise enforcing agency, but yet we still have as much as 3,000 houses being submerged. Not to talk of 100 and the paper carries 153 dead too, but with recent statistics, I think that have jumped to 171. So, what is your take on this current happening?
Well, it's quite sad and quite unfortunate that we are experiencing this at this point in time, because at a period when we are facing economic woes and challenges in Nigeria as a country, then we have these unfortunate incidents also coming up at this point in time. And I think the thing is this: what actually happened was what was experienced in Niger State was the torrential rain flooding, and it rained for hours non-stop, heavily, and water itself cannot be stopped. No one can stop water, no force can stop water. So if the dams in our neighboring countries have not been released and we are already experiencing this kind of torrential flooding without proper machineries being put in place by the government concerned, especially the Niger State government, probably they didn't see it coming, and they've endangered the life of the indigents in Niger State. And Mokwa, to be very frank, it's a predominantly it's an agrarian state. It's an agrarian state, and if this flooding has affected them, you can be sure that many farmers are not going to go to farms. Food will be affected, and presently we are even facing food inflation in the country. Then how much more adding this damage that has been done by this torrential rain flooding? I think it's something that calls for concern, both on the part of the state government and also the federal government coming in to provide intervention and backup for them. It's quite sad.
All right. Thank you so much, Bolude. Viewers, we will take a short breather while we are on that. We will be looking at a very brief report on the flood crisis ravaging some states in Nigeria. Please stay tuned.
Call it a furious flood, and you won't be wrong. That's the state of affairs in Pege Town in Mokwa local government area of Niger State, following a severe early morning downpour on Thursday, which culminated into a flood disaster in the area, sweeping away anything in its wake. As at the last count, the Niger State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed at least 21 deaths, with 10 others missing as search and rescue operations continue. Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says it has activated its MENA Operations Office to deploy search and rescue officers and mobilize support equipment.
I never seen this one before.
On his part, the state governor, Umaru Bago, is commiserating with the people of Mokwa local council area over the disaster, as he directs the State Emergency Management Agency and other concerned groups to take necessary action.
right, viewers, there you have it. I believe you watch with us just as we did here in the studio. From the reporter, you must have had 21 dead. That was at the instance of that report as at when the disaster took place. But presently, we're looking at a death toll that is around or has surpassed 100 and 17 persons dead, and I think some still missing. That is the situation of things. All right, Bolu, coming to you now before I come to Sumto. We've spoken so much in the past about this. And like you said before we came live on air, you said most of these indigent communities do avoid government warnings and the rest. But given the damage I just saw, would you say as much as 30,000 or 3,000 houses are within the flood plain? And then would you say even if government is looking at evacuating roughly 3,000 house occupants in these houses, or should we be looking at other countermeasures that should have been done to curtail this, especially looking at block drainage and some of these things?
All right, thank you very much. On this issue, this is, like I said earlier on, this is torrential flooding.
Okay.
It's unexpected. It can happen anywhere, either in the urban area or in the rural area. And then from the video we both watch now, this happens to be like one of the urban centers, urban areas in, in Mokwa, in Niger State. So it's not a rural area, it's an urban area. But the challenge that I probably can just talk about here is probably, for every area, for every environment where you find yourselves, there are drainages and the rest of them. But when you have torrential flooding, if the drainage system that is in place in that area is not as big, or is smaller than the capacity of the torrential flooding, there is nothing anybody can. This is a natural disaster. It's not caused by anyone. This is not the annual dam water release that has always been done. This is an urban area. This is torrential flooding. If the width of the drainage in the area is much more smaller than torrential flooding, what has happened is just
It's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. So it's not the cause of either the government, the people. This is what we call natural disaster. This was not planned for.
Okay.
Nobody planned for this, because I want to presume that the drainage system that is in place in that kind of area is not the regular big drainage system, because when you have torrential flooding, there is nothing that can be done to actually stop it. So we can only at best just commiserate with these people.
All right. Thank you so much, Bolude. And indeed, we can only at best commiserate with the victims and the families that have lost their life as a result of this ill-fated incident there in Mokwa local government of Niger State. All right, Sumto, you have been patient and waiting to air your own view as regards this, but I want you to come in this way, because we have a report there that says Tinubu shuns Niger State community, sends delegation, and warns Nigerians living within the flood-prone areas. This is not the first time such warnings have been coming. Most Nigerians have become adamant when it comes to responding to government warnings in terms of emergency. But at the same time, our current president is not known to quickly respond in person to emergency situations like this, and rather he sends in delegates. Why I'm saying this is because the likes of other presidential aspirants, like the likes of Peter Obi, would want to have a face-to-face analysis of this situation. Now, does this speak anything to say of the government? Do we have them to check in this situation?
Thank you, Mr. Godwin, for that question. Just like you said, our president, for one, it's not someone that actually even hearkens to warnings and expect the warnings given to Nigerians to probably be accepted or dealt with as an emergency. In as much as we, just like Bolu said, that this flood, it's a natural disaster and it wasn't planned. I still believe, and I want to say that the government still has a responsibility of preventing such incidents from happening in this scale or in this manner in which it happened. The reason why I say so is this: before this flood actually happened, I am sure there were notifications, and probably the agencies in charge of this, they knew something like this is going to happen. Because if I also learned that there are also some warnings given to Plateau, Kano, Kaduna for such incidents. So when these warnings are being released, what do this agency or the government do to help the people? Okay, putting myself in their shoes, for example, I'm being told that where I live is about to be flooded. What do you want me to do? Am I supposed to pack my things from my house and run away from where I live to go to where exactly? You are going to see that in more developed or civilized countries, certain measures are being put in place to prevent. The thing is, we know that this thing is, it didn't take us by surprise. That's the truth. It didn't take us. Warnings have been issued out months ahead that something, even though we didn't know the level at which the disaster would have been done, we know that something is going to happen. So at that point, just like Bolo said, drainages, I'm sure there was enough time. There would have been enough time for the government to probably have constructed something better to prevent. We are talking about 3,000 houses. This warning would have, I'm sure there was a time when we were taking some of our newspaper headlines. I read something concerning this flooding. I know that it's something that probably had taken the likes of 6 months before it happened. That was enough time to have been able to construct something that would have at least reduced the impact of this flooding that just happened in Niger State. Why I say so is it is easier for them to loot out money. It is easier for them to make the Senate sign something, pass reading, second reading in less than a week. But yet it's difficult for our government to do something that would help make the life of the common man easy. You issue warning to them. What do you want them to do? You would see the likes of citing instances from the with the United States. There are evacuations plans. The moment it is released that okay, earthquake something, or just like the fire that happened, you get that it's supposed to you see that instantly evacuation method plans are set in place. These people are being moved to another place. And you could realize that the last fire outbreak that happened, it consumed a whole lot of. We're talking of thousands here. It was more or less like a community that was consumed with fire. But you would see that the lives of the record of life lost was very, very minimal. You could barely count, because there were measures put in place to say that people do not lose their life and still were able to live for comfortable. These are countries that really, really value the life of their citizens. They took them somewhere, even though it can't be like where they were living before, but at least they had evacuation method. But here in Nigeria, we only release such warnings, and then what do you expect the common man to do? Someone that is barely struggling to feed. Well, should he start clearing his drainage? Yes, we know we have our responsibilities to not block the drainage, but just like what we saw, no matter the level of drainage there at that point, it wouldn't have been able to prevent anything. Yes, okay, so yes, the government should be able to do something.
Does this speak as regards to the usage of our ecological fund as a nation?
It does, actually.
Well, I think the state government should be held responsible for that, because from the report I just got now, the torrential flooding lasted for over, I think, 7 to 8 hours. You know what that means?
Yeah.
When you have regular rain can that last 1-2 hours, you can see how flooded the impact. Then how much more? Something 7-8 hours, almost half.
Yeah.
Almost half of the whole thing. And it's quite unfortunate now. From what I just got now is that after the long hours of that flood, and one of the dams in Mokwa collapsed, and that was what even made it much more disastrous. You know what it means for ordinary rainfall to be for 8 hours. Then, in addition to it, dam water collapsing also. So you can see that it was beyond what anybody could have. Apparently, but I think the ecological fund.
Okay, another
it's
question.
One of the poorly used funds.
Another question I can ask now is, what exactly was done for them afterwards?
He asks the governor of
Nigeria. It's a question. What exactly is now being done?
Outside the burial of this person.
Aside, these people now that have lost their houses, some people can move into their houses. What exactly is now being done? Is there now? Okay, since let's agree that it has happened. Is there now an evacuation plans to see that these people that their properties were damaged still have a place to lay their heads? It's to show you that here in Nigeria, lives are not being valued.
All right. Thank you so much, my two co-anchors, for that very in-depth and interesting analysis there. From our end here in ACNN, we just want to add our voice to the warning presently being given out by NIMET as regards the flash flood areas of places in Plateau, Kano, Kaduna, and 5 other places. We just want to plead with our governors. We want to plead with our leaders in authority to take charge and responsibility of the territories within their domain. We don't wait for crisis to happen and begin to look out for measures to curtail it. Let us start now. Let us begin to look at those communities that resides within the floodplains and also those that have houses within the riverine communities, all of that, and begin to work on them to avoid all of these calamities and devastation in the future. I believe when we start with that, it will be from us that we are doing our part and we are taking the right step in the right direction. All right, now, gentlemen, moving on to other stories that we have to look at this morning. Last week, the president, I watched that inauguration, and I was in a way happy. The coastal rail, the coastal highways that the Tinubu administration is championing, and then we have it to say it's supposed to be a 700-kilometer Lagos Calabar road project, and yet the president and his entourage went to Lagos in a grand reception to commission a 30-kilometer off, or do I say out of the 700-kilometer. And the likes of the popular critics of this present administration, Showore, is coming to say that Tinubu committed treasonable felony and must face criminal charge for commissioning a 30-kilometer of the 700-kilometer Lagos Calabar road project. So,
no, please direct.
Okay, I should direct that question. All right. So
before Bolu speaks,
what is your take on this?
As you were just saying that, the only question I could ask myself was, isn't this the same Lagos Calabar coastal road that led to the demolition of one of Nigerian's finest resort in Lagos? Mr. Bolu.
All right, thank you very much.
No, it is a question of yes or no.
Yes.
It's okay. You could see you see that when before that demolition took place, this was an investment that was worth millions of dollars. It was one of the things that brought people into, like, it was something that was beautiful. The edifice was beautiful. The revenue it generated, particularly for Lagos State government, was huge. The job employment, everything was wonderful, and you could see that land or that resort was forcefully demolished, all in the name of Lagos Calabar Coastal Road. And at the end of the day,
do we take it to say that this infrastructure is standing in the way of development?
it wasn't standing, because we could, before it was constructed, there were other alternatives that road could pass without touching the resort.
But the resort still serves the purpose of the government here. And then if same government is saying, okay, for the purpose of this massive project,
okay, then let's do so. Okay, so where at the end of the day, where's the massive project, Mr. Godwin?
they just commissioned
Commission
a 30 kilometer
out of 700.
Okay, now the question
It
to
is
you,
so
Mr. Assumpto,
insignificant.
is, okay, that is to you. And then Showore is saying that the president should be charged for treasonable felony. Has it actually come to this?
I don't think he's entitled to his own opinion.
Okay.
When you say something someone should be charged for treasonable felony, that's actually a very grievous offense. You have to know what you have done for you to be charged with treasonable felony. So I'm not sticking with Sowore for what he has said.
Okay.
All I am saying is, Nigeria is a very funny place. Because I can just imagine at the end of the day, what exactly did you achieve? Out of 700, you commissioned 30. It's so insignificant, to be honest, and it is extremely easy. Did they even get to? Did that road actually exceed Lagos? Not to even talk about heading to where it's going to connect to Calabar. So, of what essence was my own pain is the demolition. Of what essence was the demolition now being done for?
All right. Thank you so much, Somto. Boluna, coming to you, because Somto have spoken as regards to other properties that had to go. And then yet, after all of this, the president coming into commission just 30 kilometers.
Trust me, trust me, that's the end of that project.
I wouldn't want to agree with that because the Tinubu administration promised to finish this 700 kilometers.
It's going to now be part of his within what? That is going to be a part of his agenda for 2027.
I wouldn't say, because no one is God and don't know if he's coming back.
You believe that this current administration will finish it?
Let's watch and see. He has started 30 kilometers. So much can be done within 6 months. So much can be done within 1 year. Okay. All right, Bolu, what is your take? What is your assessment of all of this? Given the fact that for every project, there's supposed to be a time frame. There's supposed to be a timing that the project execution process is supposed to take. So taking up 30 kilometers, would you say it is bad for a start?
30 kilometers out of 700.
Okay.
Why commission 30?
I think, if I'm asked, it's a step in the right direction, but it's a poor outing.
Yes.
It's a poor outing because when you look at it, what's the percentage of 30 kilometers out of 700? That's the angle with which I will be coming from this morning. Like I said, that it's a step in the right direction.
670 kilometers left.
Because if you look at 700 kilometers, the 10% of 700 kilometers is 70 kilometers.
What is left is 670 kilometers.
Now, while I understand that the Minister of Works, because I watched the inauguration, I listened to the speeches that were, especially as regards to with respect to the Minister of Works, that is Honorable Dave Umahi. He said some certain things. He said that the road is in phases. Phase 1, I think they have about 6 phases or 6 sections of the project. But then I think for me, the reason why I said it's a good one, but it's appalling that we are commissioning 30 kilometers. I strongly believe it was just to score a political point. That's why they are commissioning that 30 kilometers, because many people believe it was a fox and a white elephant project. Many people never believed that road ever existed.
Yeah.
Many people never believed. And just to put some things straight now out there. Now, when we talk about the landmark beach demolition and all of those things, the landmark beach or the landmark resort, the aspect of it that was actually demolished, the landmark itself as a resort wasn't demolished. It was never demolished. What actually happened was there is a right of way for every building, for every organization, where once you are building, there is a building plan. And you are expected to leave a certain meters or distances between the road construction and whatsoever it is that you want to erect on your property. what was actually demolished, the part of the landmark bridge that was demolished, was what is called the right of way for the coastal road. Because we may, whether we like it or not, there is actually a plan. But just that Nigerian government and the Nigerian system, we are very bad at implementing plans. This coastal road, I think it was first moved by the government of the late Shehu Shagari, was the one who actually planned who had the initial idea of the coastal road, and successive government has abandoned it. So the coastal road, well, just to show to Nigerians that, see, we are not lying. No, I believe that's what they've done. We are not lying. This coastal road is existing. We have done 30 kilometers, because I think they've gone past about, let's say, 25 kilometers beyond the landmark resort that was said to be demolished, and now they are moving towards Ogun State. Mind you, the Minister of Works also said that construction has started on the Calabar aspect of it. Construction is ongoing on the Akwa Ibom end of it.
Do we have proof of all of this?
Yes. No, I'm not their spokesperson. He said at the inauguration, he said, so let's believe, because many Nigerians are of the opinion that, myself as a person, even up until the time it was inaugurated, I was skeptical. Was it true? Was it really being constructed? But now that they've shown us that at least we've done that kilometer, you can see we are not lying. It's just to prove to us that something is ongoing.
All right, Bolu, just to add up to what you've said now, and from the eyes of the journalists, which you have critically analyzed some of this issue, and I want to ask, do you think that him inaugurating just 30 kilometers out of 700 is more or less saying that, okay, it's, do I call it a re-election campaign strategy? Do you see it as that for this administration? I think that will be below the belt if they should make an attempt to use 30 kilometers of coastal road to campaign. No,
it's
because why I'm asking this, so this question also falls to you. Why I'm asking this, we have leaders who have led this country in the past, and they are known for one thing, and that thing is this: you leave so much undone, so that when campaign seasons come or electioneering time comes, you begin to use these things to preempt voters to vote for you. Take, for instance, a leader who failed to provide water, a leader who failed to provide good road. These are things that have been appropriated for in all the budgets that have transpired all through his administration, because he has hope of coming back. He starts using, I will provide water, I will provide good road, to engage the voters. So do we see this as a strategy of the Tinubu administration to hold on to the southern zone?
Well, that's what I'm actually telling you. Any attempt by the present administration to use that 30 kilometer of the Lagos-Calabar coastal road as a campaign tool, it's going to be an effort in futility. It's even going to be what I would call a dead on arrival calculation or strategy, because you cannot tell me that out of 700 kilometers you've done 30, and you had this number of years to have done at least not less than 150 to 200 kilometers. Then you've done 30, then you now want to come back. Well, I think, except if the gullibility of Nigeria still plays a huge role in doing some of these things. But then I don't think any reasonable and well-meaning administration will use 30 kilometers out of 700 kilometers as a campaign tool at any point in time.
All right, Somto, before we go to other stories, do you have...
Yeah, just to lay emphasis on what he said. I want to put it out to the public that as at June 2025, that landmark beach is not operational. As at now, it still remains closed, and there is no plans to open it, and that is an investment worth $200 million. So if we want to say a part of it, what I'm saying, it crumbled the business completely. And now we, at the end of it all, we can only boast of a 30 kilometer. So why did we not start from the other end of Calabar and probably commission the 30, and then we keep coming from there? Why was it necessary to? So this actually it could also lead to more questions. Was there another agenda behind that demolition? Because at the end of the day, 30 kilometers is nowhere in Lagos State. It's still within Lagos State.
All right, moving on now to other stories. Also last week, a whole lot of trending stories. Do I use the word trended? But we would be looking at the issue as regards the West African Examination Council (WAEC) and the probing of how do I put it now, the civic organization, and calling for a rescheduling of those papers that were written in the night. So to this, I would say, falls within your domain.
My domain.
Yeah.
I'm not writing WAEC.
No. As an
Academician.
educationist,
Am
okay. Let me
A
now
one-time
ask.
academician. A one-time educator.
All right, Mr. Sonto, WAEC must cancel reschedule written papers at night. Civic organization, and we also have Nigerian Bar Association I beg your pardon, urgent probe of JAM WAEC glitches by National Assembly. Now, these two stories are like countering each other. Nigerian Bar Association is demanding urgent probe of JAM and WAEC glitches by National Assembly. And we have civic organization also calling for a rescheduling of papers that were done at night. So let's start with the first one.
Okay.
Papers done at night. We're talking about the sanctity, or for the lack of better word, let me stick with the word sanctity of the examination process. And then you have students carrying their mobile phone, using it as touchlights in our academic institution to write not just any exam, but a national exam. So let's start from that. What is your take? And then calling for a rescheduling because the paper went into the night.
I'm sorry. Can we explain who these civic organizations are?
There could be anyone,
Okay.
provided they have interest as regards to
Okay,
education.
if I can speak, I would say I also see that the National Assembly is also interested, and let's be reminded that WAEC is not just particular to Nigeria. It's for the West Africa Examination Council. It means that if in Nigeria you are to write civic education by 2 o'clock, it means that in Ghana I'm also writing civic education by 2 o'clock. So one part of the nation now demanding that it's been cancelled. I think, how feasible is it exactly? Why is it always Nigerians that are having this? Did Ghana complain of the same incident?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
This is only happening in Nigeria. It falls within two strategic papers, which is
Okay.
physics and English language.
So that's what I'm still saying. Other nations that are writing these papers at the same day, at the same time, are not complaining of the same incident.
Okay.
But here in Nigeria, and now we are saying it should be rescheduled. So
Even in the same Nigeria, some have written the same exam broad
daylight. So why
So for
would
those
you
that-
use? So why would you use because of a set of people to now demand that in the entire West Africa? Because that's what they are simply saying. In the entire West Africa, there should be what word will I use now? That this a receipt of this paper because of a set of people. So the question should be,
But wait, let's Mr. Sumdu, let's just address this set of people word that you are using. This cut across almost every region in Nigeria: the north, the south, the west, the south, and everywhere you go. No, it cut across.
All right.
Sincerely, it does. It does cut across.
There are people that should be held responsible. It's not WAEC. It's not WAEC. There are a particular set of people that should be held responsible. And when I wrote WAEC, there's usually a center. These papers are usually ready. Mr. Godwin, these
The
papers
exams
are
always with
usually
CBN of every
they are
state.
usually very ready. They are already on ground.
Seriously kept.
They are usually on ground, like he said, CBN. Each state you get. So what they do is the day they are going to write that paper, there's like a center. Everybody goes there, and WAEC usually have external invigilators. You don't know who is coming to visit. Somebody from Kano might be sent to Lagos. Somebody from Lagos might be sent to Bauchi. You get. So you go there, you pick that paper. It is your invigilator that comes in with that paper. So the question should be, what really happened that made the paper arrive late?
Okay,
That is not.
I think just to buttress the point, WAEC have actually given an explainer to this.
Okay.
To them, they said that there was a leakage of the paper, and for this primary reason, we all have written WAEC, and we've seen issues where when there are do I say postulation as regards to leakage, you see them saying we would reset the paper. So this is actually what happened, but they tried to meet up with the deadline. They did in other places, but in majority of states across Nigeria had the same issue of these two papers.
It's like, just like I've been saying, there are people that should be held responsible for. WAEC is a paper that it's usually very, when we talk about WAEC, I don't think there's any exam that fears
An average
student than WAEC.
Okay.
You can chest NICO, we can chest GCE, but you see WAEC, you can't predict it. So you see, this thing, it still boils down to the fact we are complaining that they wrote letter even in our own national election. There are people that still vote into the night because the papers or whatever it is they will need to vote arrived late. So rather than asking for a receipt for these papers, I think it's high time we start holding people responsible. People do things and they just go scot-free. Certain people should be held responsible. So those that were responsible for this should actually be interviewed. They should be asked questions.
I think coming on the back heel of that, like we've always done, we have this culture of not holding people responsible.
Exactly. Nobody is held responsible.
Yes. We are very, very bad
at that. Nobody is
when
held responsible for anything.
When something is wrong, we always look for the bigger person to put it at their table.
Yeah.
Because I understand the workings of WAEC examinations these days. When the questions is sent to Nigeria, it first gets to Abuja here at the Central Bank of Nigeria, distributed to the state CBN. And when it is distributed to the state CBN, every exam center would, from the state CBN, they would take it to the nearest bank branches of some of the centers.
Yeah.
Because I've worked at some point closely to some certain persons. They will take it to some of these banks and not and when some of these exams are leaking, it has always leaked years on years.
Yes. So
because if you look at it, most especially the epic center of this is in Taraba State, Jalingo. So what exactly went
wrong there?
What happened?
Somebody should be held responsible. Okay. Enough of doing things and going scot-free. Somebody should be held responsible.
So for me, I'm of the opinion the deed has been done. Just please, if you cannot hold people who are the hems of their affairs at all of this level, if you cannot hold them responsible, then we should let it go.
All right, gentlemen, I hear you loud and clear, and I believe our viewers also did. But we can't close up the show this morning without looking at the death of the 21 athletes all the way from the Gateway Games, and then having a ghastly motor accident that took their lives. The Northern State are mourning 21 persons, young, vibrant athletes who I would say sacrifice for the love of the game. But at the same time, I don't want to look at it from that angle. Should there be a fault line within our nation? Just 30 seconds.
So, Mr. Godwin, yeah, we sympathize with them, but I still fault the state government.
Okay.
Was it
you mean Kano State?
Kano State.
Okay.
The moment I heard the news, the first thing that popped into my head was it too much to have flown these athletes for the National Sports Festival? There are misuse and misappropriation of funds everywhere, even in Kano State. Then you are sending your athletes.
But are there actually any states that's flown as a
That is what.
result of
That
this?
is that. I believe some states.
I don't think
Okay, even if no. Okay, now they are dead. They will bring their bodies on with on planes. It happened.
I think the accident actually happened in Kano.
In Kano,
They've gotten to Kano already.
We are still.
But
They were not in Kano. It's different from when you've gotten into a state, but you are still far from it.
From the city
I don't know
center,
if you understand. If these athletes have been flown to Kano, the truth is, such this accident will have. Okay, now we don't even know the cause. If it was a result of a brake failure or fatigue from the driver, we really don't know. Or if it was a collision, you get. But certain things are we can prevent some certain things.
All right. Thank you so much. Certain things are preventable.
Yeah.
Bolu, your last word on the show.
I think things like this can be avoided,
Okay.
and by all means necessary should be avoided. The government now needs to sit down, tighten their seatbelts, and do something better for all of these athletes, especially people who are giving back to their various states. Because at the end of the day, you discover that the money they cannot spend on these athletes to fly within Nigeria is being spent to some individuals. For example, I'm not faulting any religious or something now, but then you have people who are traveling out of this country for Hajj, and they would subsidize it. I think as at the last time they spent almost 15 billion naira for Hajj.
The Ogun State government is already giving 1 million naira each to the families. How much does it cost to fly from Kano to Imo? I think that was it.
Kano government also gave 1 million.
So how much? At most 150,000 going and coming 300,000.
That 2 million naira is the value of
For the
life
that is what we,
of
now,
an athlete that
yes,
represented
now we are
your
saying
state.
you can now give every of them 1 million. Right, Ogun State is now giving 1 million. Kano State, for example, is also giving 1 million.
They will do more. Kano will do more.
But it will have only cost less than 300,000 naira to fly these people going and coming.
When you do charter,
So what are we
it
saying?
will even be much more cheaper.
Exactly. The likes of Rano had, they have aircraft. There are some big men that could just charter a domestic, a commercial airline and fly these people.
All right, gentlemen, I think that is the size of our package. With sympathy, we indeed want to commensurate with the families of these 21 athletes of from Kano State that lost their life as a result of that ghastly motor accident. My pain here is that these things are avoidable, and we want to urge all the state government, just like my two co-anchors have reiterated here, everything that must be done to avoid tragedy must be done, and done as at when due and when it is mostly needed. We are pleading the lives of an average Nigerian is far more too important to gamble with. Leaders, we beg you to come up and take responsibility to do the needful. At this point, gentlemen, I must say a very big thank you. Now streaming was a success because of Somtochukwu Okezu and Boluwatife Adegboye. Thank you so much for having our time to be with me on the show. All right, viewers, this is the size of our package. We want to thank you for staying tuned and also for your time and contribution. I must say that you can get more of our programs via various social media platforms and also by staying tuned to this station. So we'll come your way again with other interesting topics, same time, same station tomorrow. Do have yourselves a blessed day ahead. I am Gordon Ujiri, and bye for now.